Hi guys, just wanted to show you a couple of things with what I've managed to create in Unity, which I think is pretty awesome just from doing a few hours worth of work on some of the tutorials that I found on the School of Interactive Design. So this is just the beginning of one of the tutorial videos, just demonstrating what the basic level editor or design looks like from the tutorial. So as you can see there, all of the textures are relatively flat, so the trees don't move, the grass textures are flat, the textures on that little box there in the corner is fairly flat. The water, it just looks like one giant pool surface, there's no real sky. There's a bit of dynamic lights and all sorts and some flames in there, but it's not really, it looks cool, and for someone who's never ever created anything like this before, to be able to do this was pretty awesome. But what I decided to do is I thought to myself, well, why don't I just see if I can add a little bit of my own flair to this and do a little bit more with this level. So I decided that that's what I'm going to do, and this is what I've managed to create in Unity that's taken it a little bit to the next level. So here we have what I've created in Unity. So you can see there's a little bit more to it than what was in the tutorial video. So the first thing that's very obviously noticeable is we have a sky with the sun, so that adds a hell of a lot more life to it straight away. The next thing that's probably the most noticeable is that all the trees are moving, so it's like as if there's some wind, and then also the water. So it doesn't look like one giant pool texture, it looks like actual water, and if you look closely enough you can see the water is moving. Now, one of the other things that I did that's a little bit more subtle, that you might not notice from the tutorial so much, is that I learned how to bump map all the textures. So what bump mapping basically is that you take a normal texture which is flat, say like these bricks for example, and then you just paste it onto this object which happens to be a cube that I've stretched out and made into what looks like a wall. And so if you look closely you can actually see that the bricks kind of stand out. It doesn't look like a flat texture on a brick wall. It doesn't look like the bricks were painted onto a flat surface. It actually looks like a brick wall. So the bricks stand out, and the grooves in between the bricks, or the cement in between the bricks, looks like it's sunken in. And this is how bump mapping works. So you've got a texture that you put onto the brick wall, and then you create what we call a normal file, which is basically just like a really weird trippy looking image that's all purple and green. In fact, let me see if I can find the normal file itself. So if I just get out of here and I go back to my scene, this is what the normal file here looks like. So you can actually see it looks like water, but if I look at that there or look at this here, it's kind of like a purple greeny thing going on, and that's what a normal file looks like, and that's how you bump map and that's how the video card or DirectX or the processing software then bump maps the texture. So if I go back into my game here and I press spacebar and I go play again, that's what's been used to bump map these bricks to make it look like a proper wall. I've also done it to the grass, so the grass kind of stands out, looks more like lawn than just being flat. Also these metal grates as well, they kind of pop out and stand up as well compared to what was in the tutorial. And if I go over here to my little middle box, you can see that the middle box looks quite gritty. It's got pits and grooves and all sorts of things on it, and it really looks like a really well weather-worn box instead of just sort of a flat yellow texture on the outside there. Now if I go over here, I might just jump up over here. This is a little camera character controller that comes with Unity that I can just use to go through the level that I've created. Now obviously this is nothing compared to what sort of AI or advanced stuff can be created when actually programming a game. But this was just basically throwing a few things together from the tutorial that I learned in Unity, plus a few extra things that I researched on the internet, and I threw all this together in about 5 hours. So it's pretty awesome, I reckon, what I've managed to create from having never known anything about Unity before at all. So you can have a look at the water here. Looks really cool, really realistic. That reflection from the sunlight, that was something that it doesn't come with the skybox. The skybox is basically the sky, and so I had to create a lighting source and modify it to look like a reflection on the water, and it turned out pretty well. and then all these little islands that are all over the place, I just added those too to add a bit of flair. And the last thing, oh, and I'm dead. Let's try that again. Oh great, I'm facing the right direction. So if I go up this ramp, you can see over there in the distance that we've got this great sort of background set of distanced mountains, and what I used there was I created another terrain that's separate to this terrain that's managing all these little islands, and I put a little fog in, which was also not part of the tutorial, and created so that from this point of view, from the character controller, the fog has a certain radius at which it starts, and the terrain is behind that radius, so it just looks like it's distant mountains, and so my whole scene looks a lot more complete that way. Cool. Right, thanks for listening.